I'm live. That's what it says. I'm live. Hello, I'm live. Here I am. Welcome back to me. Welcome back to you. It's Monday. I'm not usually here on a Monday, but I just finished a meeting. My second meeting. I had a meeting at 12:30. I had a meeting at 2. That meeting finished right in the nick of time for me to be here at 3 for some Frankenstein tea. Welcome. I'm Kristen. I'm the director of the Island Free Library on Block Island, and Frankenstein Tea is a short story program for adult listeners. This is adult short stories. It has been a way for us to stay connected during COVID. And hi, Dad. I know, unexpected. Stay connected to our family and friends and my father during this pandemic. That's what we're doing here. We're still not meeting in person, and we're still not all seeing each other. And so we continue to do virtual programs, and this is one of them. My dad just wrote, "Hi, unexpected." Yeah, I had some meetings, Dad, and it ended just now. And so I picked up the book that I read from the other day. Actually, I flipped through it during my meeting. Oh my gosh, what can I read? And found something, but I have not pre-read it. So, we're going to sit here together and read this story. I don't know where it goes. I don't know what it's about. I don't know if I'll know all the words. I don't know if I'll stumble. I don't know the rhythm of it. But I'm going to go for it. We'll see. I'm going to take it easy and just read a story and see what happens. So yes, so Frankenstein Tea. Here we are on a Monday. It's my usual day off, but I am working today, so I'm gonna read. And I sort of owe you one because I had to take the ferry on Saturday, which usually I do read on. I love to read on Saturday, right? For people that are with me often. I love that Saturday read. It's after the building is closed for the week. It's a particularly quiet moment. This sort of hush and lull comes over the building, and we're shut, and the staff sort of files out the door for the end of their work week while I'm upstairs reading to you. And then I come down and it's quiet and everything's shut and silent. So I love to read to you then on Saturday, but I had to run and catch the ferry. We had a family event, and so I had to make the 2:00 boat. So I missed you on Saturday. Sunday, I was on the mainland and didn't even bring my computer. And here we are today, as my father says, unexpected, but that's sort of fun, right? Spontaneous. And then, as I said, spontaneous. Not sure where this story's going to go, but we're going to try it. This lug of a book, I just realized, is so old. It's not like ancient, but the date on this author is her birth year is 1890, and then it's a dash, and she hasn't even died yet when this book was published, even though she was born in 1890, which I thought was quite a feat until I just Googled her, and she died in 1980. So she was 90. Wasn't like she was 130 or anything, but still, it made me laugh. Like 1890 without a death date in there is something. So maybe it was published right then. Maybe, let's see when it was published. I don't really know. I just scored it out of the book sale room. And it's, 1974. First published in 1956. I think this edition. Oh no, this is the third printing, 1977. Yeah, so it's getting old. So I'm reading it. I don't. Here we go. All right, this is by Catherine Ann Porter. And that's Catherine with a K. Catherine Ann with an E. So Catherine with a K, Ann with an E, Porter. And the name of her short story here that we're going to read in the first run here is The Jilting of Granny Weatherall. She flicked her wrist neatly out of Dr. Harry's pudgy, careful fingers and pulled the sheet up to her chin. The brat ought to be in knee breeches, doctoring around the country with spectacles on his nose. Get along now. Take your school books and go. There's nothing wrong with me. Dr. Harry spread a warm paw like a cushion on her forehead where the forked green vein danced and made her eyelids twitch. Now, be a good girl and we'll have you up in no time. That's no way to speak to a woman nearly 80 years old just because she's down. I'd have you respect your elders, young man. Well, Missy, excuse me. Dr. Harry patted her cheek. But I've got to warn you, haven't I? You're a marvel, but you must be careful or you're going to be good and sorry. Don't tell me what I'm going to be. I'm on my feet now, morally speaking. It's Cornelia. I had to go to bed to get rid of her. Her bones felt loose and floated around in her skin, and Dr. Harry floated like a balloon around the foot of the bed. He floated and pulled down his waistcoat and swung his glasses on a cord. Well, stay where you are. It certainly can't hurt you. Get along and doctor you're sick, said Granny Weatherall. Leave a well woman alone. I'll call for you when I want you. Where were you 40 years ago when I pulled through milk leg and double pneumonia? You weren't even born. Don't let Cornelia lead you on, she shouted, because Dr. Harry appeared to float up to the ceiling and out. I pay my own bills and I don't throw my money away on nonsense. She meant to wave goodbye, but it was too much trouble. Her eyes closed of themselves. It was like a dark curtain drawn around the bed. The pillow rose and floated under her, pleasant as a hammock in a light wind. She listened to the leaves rustling outside the window. No, somebody was swishing newspapers. No, Cornelia and Dr. Harry were whispering together. She leaped broad awake, thinking they whispered in her ear. She was never like this, never like this. Well, what can we expect? Yes, 80 years old. Well, and what if she was? She still had ears. It was like Cornelia to whisper around doors. She always kept things secret in such a public way. She was always being tactful and kind. Cornelia was dutiful. That was the trouble with her. Dutiful and good. So good and dutiful, said Granny, that I'd like to spank her. She saw herself spanking Cornelia and making a fine job of it. What did you say, Mother? Granny felt her face tying up in hard knots. Can't a body think, I'd like to know? I thought you might want something. I do. I want a lot of things. First off, go away and don't whisper. She lay and drowsed, hoping in her sleep that the children would keep out and let her rest a minute. It had been a long day. Not that she was tired. It was always pleasant to snatch a minute now and then. There was always so much to be done. Let me see. Tomorrow. Tomorrow was far away, and there was nothing to trouble about. Things were finished somehow when the time came. Thank God, there was always a little margin over for peace. Then a person could spread out the plan of life and tuck in the edges orderly. It was good to have everything clean and folded away, with the hairbrushes and tonic bottles sitting straight on the white embroidered linen. The day started without fuss, and the pantry shelves laid out with rows of jelly glasses and brown jugs and white stone china jars with blue whirligigs and words painted on them: coffee, tea, sugar, ginger, cinnamon, allspice. And the bronze clock with the lion on top nicely dusted off. The dust that lion could collect in 24 hours. The box in the attic with all those letters tied up, well, she'd have to go through that tomorrow. All those letters, George's letters and John's letters, and her letters to them both, lying around for the children to find afterwards, made her uneasy. Yes, that would be tomorrow's business. No use to let them know how silly she had been once. While she was rummaging around, she found death in her mind, and it felt clammy and unfamiliar. She had spent so much time preparing for death, there was no need for bringing it up again. Let it take care of itself now. When she was 60, she had felt very old, finished, and went around making farewell trips to see her children and grandchildren with a secret in her mind. This is the very last of your mother, children. Then she made up her will and came down with a long fever. That was all just a notion, like a lot of other things, but it was lucky too, for she had once for all got over the idea of dying for a long time. Now she couldn't be worried. She hoped she had better sense now. Her father had lived to be 102 years old and had drunk a noggin of strong hot toddy on his last birthday. He told the reporters it was his daily habit, and he owed his long life to that. He had made quite a scandal, and he was very pleased about it. She believed she just plagued Cornelia a little. Cornelia! Cornelia! No footsteps, but a sudden hand on her cheek. Bless you! Where have you been? Here, mother. Well, Cornelia, I want a noggin of hot toddy. Are you cold, darling? I'm chilly, Cornelia. Lying in bed stops the circulation. I must have told you that 1,000 times. Well, she could just hear Cornelia telling her husband that her mother was getting a little childish and they'd have to humor her. The thing that most annoyed her was that Cornelia thought she was deaf, dumb, and blind. Little hasty glances and tiny gestures tossed around her and over her head, saying, Don't cross her. Let her have her way. She's 80 years old. And she's sitting there as if she lived in a thin glass cage. Sometimes Granny almost made up her mind to pack up and move back to her own house, where nobody could remind her every minute that she was old. Wait, Cornelia, till your own children whisper behind your back. In her day, she had kept a better house and had got more work done. She wasn't too old yet for Lydia to be driving 80 miles for advice when one of the children jumped the track, and Jimmy still dropped in and talked things over. Now, Mammy, you've a good business head. I want to know what you think about this. Old. Cornelia couldn't change the furniture around without asking. Little things, little things. They had been so sweet when they were little. Granny wished the old days were back again, with the children young and everything to be done over. It had been a hard pull, but not too much for her. When she thought of all the food she had cooked, and all the clothes she had cut and sewed, and all the gardens she had made, well, the children showed it. There they were, made out of her, and they couldn't get away from that. Sometimes she wanted to see John again and point to them and say, Well, I didn't do so badly, did I? But that would have to wait. That was for tomorrow. She used to think of him as a man, but now all the children were older than their father, and he would be a child beside her if she saw him now. It seemed strange, and there was something wrong in the idea. Why he couldn't possibly recognize her. She had fenced in 100 acres once, digging the post holes herself and clamping the wires with just a boy to help. That changed a woman. John would be looking for a young woman with the peaked Spanish comb in her hair and the painted fan. Digging post holes changed a woman. Riding country roads in the winter when women had their babies was another thing. Sitting up nights with sick horses and sick kids and sick children and hardly ever losing one. John, I hardly ever lost one of them. John would see that in a minute. That would be something he could understand. She wouldn't have to explain anything. And made her feel like rolling up her sleeves and putting the whole place to rights again. No matter if Cornelia was determined to be everywhere at once, there were a great many things left undone on this place. She would start tomorrow and do them. It was good to be strong enough for everything, even if all you made melted and changed and slipped under your hands, so that by the time you finished, you almost forgot what you were looking for. What was it I set out to do? She asked herself intently, but she could not remember. A fog rose over the valley. She saw it marching across the creek, swallowing the trees and moving up the hill like an army of ghosts. Soon it would be at the neat edge of the orchard, and then it was time to go in and light the lamps. Come in, children. Don't stay out in the night air. Lighting the lamps had been beautiful. The children huddled up to her and breathed like little calves waiting at the bars in the twilight. Their eyes followed the match and watched the flame rise and settle in a blue curve. Then they moved away from her. The lamp was lit. They didn't have to be scared and hang on to Mother anymore. Never, never, never more. God, for all my life, I thank thee. Without thee, my God, I could never have done it. Hail Mary, full of grace. I want you to pick all the fruit this year and see that nothing is wasted. There's always someone who can use it. Don't let good things rot for want of using. You waste life when you waste good food. Don't let things get lost. It's bitter to lose things. Now, don't let me get to thinking, not when I am tired and taking a little nap before supper. The pillow rose about her shoulders and pressed against her heart, and the memory was being squeezed out of it. Oh, push down the pillow, somebody. It would smother her if she had tried to hold it. Such a fresh breeze blowing and such a green day with no threats in it. But he had not come just the same. What does a woman do when she has put on the white veil and set out the white cake for a man and he doesn't come? She tried to remember. No, I swear he never harmed me but in that. He never harmed me but in that. And what if he did? There was the day, but a whirl of dark smoke rose and covered it, crept up and over into the bright field where everything was planted so carefully in orderly rows. That was hell. She knew hell when she saw it. For 60 years she had prayed against remembering him and against losing her soul in the deep pit of hell. And now the two things were mingled in one, and the thought of him was a smoky cloud from hell that moved and crept in her head when she had just got rid of Dr. Harry and was trying to rest a minute. Wounded vanity, Ellen, said a sharp voice in the top of her mind. Don't let your wounded vanity get the upper hand of you. Plenty of girls get jilted. You were jilted, weren't you? Then stand up to it. Her eyelids wavered and let in streamers of blue-gray light like tissue paper over her eyes. She must get up and pull the shades down or she'd never sleep. She was in bed again and the shades were not drawn. How could that happen? Better turn over, hide from the light. Sleeping in the light gave you nightmares. Mother, how do you feel now? And a stinging wetness on her forehead. But I don't like having my face washed in cold water. Hapsy? George? Lydia? Jimmy? No, Cornelia, and her features were swollen and full of little puddles. They're coming, darling. They'll all be here soon. Go wash your face, child. You look funny. Instead of obeying, Cornelia knelt down and put her head on the pillow. She seemed to be talking, but there was no sound. Well, are you tongue-tied? Whose birthday is it? Are you going to give a party? Cornelia's mouth moved urgently in strange shapes. Don't do that. You bother me, darling. You bother me, daughter. Oh, no, mother. Oh, no. Nonsense. It was strange about children. They disputed your every word. No what, Cornelia? Here's Dr. Harry. I won't see that boy again. He just left 5 minutes ago. That was this morning, Mother. It's night now. Here's the nurse. This is Dr. Harry, Mrs. Wetherall. I never saw you look so young and happy. Ah, I'll never be young again, but I'd be happy if they let me lie in peace and get rested. She thought she spoke up loudly, but no one answered. A warm weight on her forehead, a warm bracelet on her wrist, and a breeze went on whispering, trying to tell her something. A shuffle of leaves in the everlasting hand of God. He blew on them and they danced and rattled. Mother, don't mind. We're going to give you a little hypodermic. Look here, daughter. How do ants get in this bed? I saw sugar ants yesterday. Did you send for Hapsy too? It was Hapsy she really wanted. She had to go a long way back through a great many rooms to find Hapsy standing with a baby on her arm. She seemed to herself to be so Hapsy also, and the baby on Hapsy's arm was Hapsy and himself and herself all at once, and there was no surprise in the meeting. Then Hapsy melted from within and turned flimsy as gray gauze, and the baby was a gauzy shadow, and Hapsy came up close and said, I thought you'd never come, and looked at her searchingly and said, You haven't changed a bit. They leaned forward to kiss when Cornelia began whispering from a long way off, Oh, is there anything you want to tell me? Is there anything I can do for you? Yes, she had changed her mind after 60 years and she would like to see George. I want you to find George. Find him and be sure to tell him I forgot him. I want him to know I had my husband just the same, and my children, and my house, like any other woman. A good house, too, and a good husband that I loved, and fine children out of him. Better than I hoped for, even. Tell him I was given back everything he took away, and more. Oh, no. Oh, God, no. There was something else besides the house and the man and the children. Oh, surely they were not all. What was it? Something not given back. Her breath crowded down under her ribs and grew into a monstrous, frightening shape with cutting edges. It bored up into her head, and the agony was unbelievable. Yes, John, get the doctor now. No more talk. My time has come. When this one was born, it should be the last. The last. It should have been born first, for it was the one she had truly wanted. Everything came in good time, nothing left out, left over. She was strong. In 3 days she would be as well as ever, better. A woman needed milk in her to have her full health. Mother, do you hear me? I've been telling you. Mother, Father Connolly's here. I went to Holy Communion only last week. Tell him I'm not so sinful as all that. Father just wants to speak to you. He could speak as much as he pleased. It was like him to drop in and inquire about her soul as if it were a teething baby, and then stay on for a cup of tea and a round of cards and gossip. He always had a funny story of some sort, usually about an Irishman who made his little mistakes and confessed them, and the point lay in some absurd thing he would blurt out in the confessional, showing his struggles between native piety and original sin. Granny felt easy about her soul. Cornelia, where are your manners? Give Father Connolly a chair. She had her secret, comfortable understanding with a few favorite aunts who cleared a straight road to God for her. All as surely signed and sealed as the papers for the new 40 acres. Forever, heirs and assigns forever. Since the day the wedding cake was not cut, but thrown out and wasted. The whole bottom dropped out of the world, and there she was, blind and sweating, with nothing under her feet, and the walls falling away. His hand had caught her underneath the breast. She had not fallen. There was the freshly polished floor with the green rug on it, just as before. He had cursed like a sailor's parrot and said, I'll kill him for you. Don't lay a hand on him. For my sake, leave something to God. Now, Ellen, you must believe what I tell you. So there was nothing to worry about anymore, except sometimes in the night, one of the children screamed in a nightmare, and they both hustled out, shaking and hunting for the matches and calling, "There, wait a minute, here we are. John, get the doctor now. Hapsy's time has come." But there was Hapsy standing by the bed in a white cap. "Cornelia, tell Hapsy to take off her cap. I can't see her plain." Her eyes opened very wide, and the room stood out like a picture she had seen somewhere. Dark colors with the shadows rising towards the ceiling in long angles. The tall black dresser gleamed with nothing on it but John's picture, enlarged from a little one, with John's very black eyes when they should have been blue. You never saw him, so how do you know how he looked? But the man insisted the copy was perfect. It was very rich and handsome. "For a picture, yes, but it's not my husband." The table by the bed had a linen cover and a candle and a crucifix. The light was blue from Cornelia's silk lampshades. No sort of light at all, just frippery. You had to live 40 years with kerosene lamps to appreciate honest electricity. She felt very strong, and she saw Dr. Harry with a rosy nimbus around him. "You look like a saint, Dr. Harry, and I vow that's as near as you'll ever come to it." She sang something. "I heard you, Cornelia. What's all this carrying on?" "Father Connolly sang." Cornelia's voice staggered and bumped like a cart in a bad road. It rounded corners and turned back again and arrived nowhere. Granny stepped up in the cart very lightly and reached for the reins, but a man sat beside her, and she knew him by his hands, driving the cart. She did not look in his face, for she knew without seeing, but looked instead down the road where the trees leaned over and bowed to each other, and 1,000 birds were singing a mass. She felt like singing too, but she had put her hand in the bosom of her dress and pulled out a rosary, and Father Connolly muttered Latin in a very solemn voice and tickled her feet. "My God, will you stop that nonsense? I'm a married woman." What if he did run away and leave me to face the priest by myself? I found another, a whole world better. I wouldn't have exchanged my husband for anybody except St. Michael himself, and you may tell him that for me with a thank you in the bargain. Light flashed on her closed eyelids, and a deep roaring shook her. "Cornelia, is that lightning? I hear thunder. There's going to be a storm. Close all the windows. Call the children in." "Mother, here we are, all of us." "Is that you, Hapsy?" "Oh, no, I'm Lydia. We drove as fast as we could." Their faces drifted above her, drifted away. The rosary fell out of her hands, and Lydia put it back. Jimmy tried to help. Their hands fumbled together. Granny closed 2 fingers around Jimmy's thumb. Beads wouldn't do it. It must be something alive. She was so amazed her thoughts ran around, round, and round. "So, my dear Lord, this is my death, and I wasn't even thinking about it. My children have come to see me die, but I can't. It's not time. Oh, I always hated surprises. I wanted to give Cornelia the amethyst set. Cornelia, you're to have the amethyst set, but Hapsy's to wear it when she wants. And, Dr. Harry, do shut up. Nobody sent for you." "Oh, my dear Lord, do wait a minute. I meant to do something about the 40 acres. Jimmy doesn't need it, and Lydia will later on with that worthless husband of hers. I meant to finish the altar cloth and send 6 bottles of wine to Sister Borgia for her dyspepsia. I want to send 6 bottles of wine to Sister Borgia, Father Connolly. Now don't let me forget." Cornelia's voice made short turns and tilted over and crashed. "Oh, Mother, oh, Mother, oh, Mother." "I'm not going, Cornelia. I'm taken by surprise. I can't go." "You'll see Hapsy again? What about her? I thought you'd never come." Granny made a long journey outward, looking for Hapsy. What if I don't find her? What then? Her heart sank down and down. There was no bottom to death. She couldn't come to the end of it. The blue light from Cornelia's lampshade drew into a tiny point in the center of her brain. It flickered and winked like an eye. Quietly it fluttered and dwindled. Granny lay curled down within herself, amazed and watchful, staring at the point of light that was herself. Her body was now only a deeper mass of shadow in an endless darkness, and this darkness would curl around the light and swallow it up. God, give a sign. For the second time, there was no sign. Again, no bridegroom and the priest in the house. She could not remember. Oh, no, there's nothing more cruel than this. I'll never forget it. She stretched herself with a deep breath and blew out the light. That was Catherine Ann Porter, and the title was The Jilting of Granny Weatherall. Maybe that one was for Mrs. Faust, Dad. All right. That's it for Frankenstein Tea for today. Ooh, look at the light on me. I know it's beautiful sunshine. What a beautiful week we're going to have. Rhode Island, Block Island is going to have a beautiful week. I hope you are too. Maybe you're having a great afternoon. Enjoy some sunshine. Breathe deep. Mask up. Still wear your mask. Inoculations and all. Still wear your masks. Keep your distance. Wash your hands. Okay? Everybody needs to stay put for a little bit longer. All right. I'll see you soon. Thanks for coming. Peace.